Welcome to Big Balls Fantasy Football, the only show by real fantasy football fans, for real fantasy football fans. I'm your host, 20-year fantasy veteran, and unfortunately, fan of the now, yet again, cutlerless Chicago Bears, Greg Reifsteck.
And I'm your co-host, Jenilee Borek, also a 10-year fantasy veteran, and I'm also a fan of the Bears, even though I'm not wearing any Bears gear. And together we are the beauty
And the beast
of fantasy football experts.
Well, you're the beauty. You don't have to be wearing these big, bulky jerseys all the time.
Well, I wore it like 2 weeks in a row, so I had to switch it up a little bit.
Exactly. So, Bears lost this week to the Lions, and we all know why. It was kind of Trestman's worst coached game in his very short career with our team.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there were just a lot of things during the game that I think he could have made some different calls on. One was the Forte run for the 2-point conversion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we didn't run the ball well all day long, so why are you going to try it in that type of situation?
Mm-hmm.
So I know that was one that really bothered me. And then the other one that bothered me was the fact that we really needed that field goal that we didn't go for, and I believe it was the beginning of the second quarter. Those 3 points, that was the difference of the game. You know, three more points would have won the game for the Bears. And so I think he needs to learn that there's certain situations that, yes, you go for 4th and 1. You try it out, that Green Bay game, that was a gutsy call. But it was a point in the game that's what we needed to do, and it worked. But when you have an easy field goal and a very good kicker, you take the points. Take those 3 points. This is a division game you need to win. So I was very disappointed in that. And then we turned it over on 4th down. Yeah,
always with the Lions, any divisional game, you need the points. And just rewinding back before I get to my pet peeve, that was a PlayStation run. Any of you guys that have played Madden on PlayStation, you have the guys set up for a run, you spread everybody out, and then you run up the gut. It works on PlayStation, Trestman. It does not work in real life. I love the article afterwards. The Lions are like, we knew that. I'm like, my grandmother knew we were running up the middle for crying out loud. But, I mean, the other problem with Trestman is he kept Cutler in way too long, knowing that he was injured, knowing that he was gimpy. You know, people were joking online, Cutler was holding his groin more than Michael Jackson. That was my favorite line.
I didn't hear that one.
It was good.
I do have to laugh.
Yeah. Hey, his groin, his ankle, whatever. I was the first one to say on our podcast, brought him back a little bit too early. Now we're without him again. Unfortunate for the team, we don't have him, but fortunately for me, I'm really happy, and I'll get into him in my Beast segment. I'm damn glad that we have McCown in. And I think with our line, I think we're going to do pretty damn well this week against the Ravens. Yeah,
he's been a great backup. And, that was the thing. It was once you saw in the second half, it was totally different Cutler in the second half than the first half.
Yeah.
And once you saw 1 or 2 series not being able to move the ball at all, that's when I think the decision should have been made to pull him. Instead, we went through 2 quarters with, I think, 4 or 5 different offensive drives that went absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, there was a drive at about 7 minutes to go that if he would have put him in, and it was the drive before, the one that McCown took us flying down the field, we would have had 2 scores, we would have won. But hindsight is 20/20, and Trestman also learned finally the wrath of not only the Chicago fans, but of the Chicago sports press. Everyone asking him, so, you fucked up, right? You screwed up, right? Welcome to Chicago, Mark.
Well, welcome back to the NFL. I think these are just things that being back in the NFL and never having been a head coach in the NFL, unfortunately, these are, the growing pains in a sense and things he's going to have to learn. So
let's talk about some other games.
Absolutely. So let's get into, there's like 3 huge games, I think, that are going to be absolutely fun as crap to watch. Yeah. The first one is the Kansas City-Denver game. I think that one is going to be a great matchup. And I want to bring up Peyton Manning because of the fact that he's gimpy with those ankles that have been bothering him.
Right.
And what's your opinion on this? Do you play him against Kansas City's extremely tough defense and risk him getting hurt more? Or do you sit him this game so that he'll be there for others and risk maybe losing the game? But I don't know. It's an interesting question.
I'm going to be a total guy here and bring up the Rocky syndrome. Even if Rocky Balboa is like dead man walking, it's the main event of the week. There is no way. I mean, the NFL is practically going to call. I mean, they already are without their coach, John Fox. They already have Jack Del Rio in their coaching. You need to have the main event. You want your star in there. And it's Peyton Manning. And he played pretty well last week, even though he was gimpy. Roll the dice. Roll the dice again, for crying out loud. I think you have to have him in. And I think we're each going to pick some players that we think are going to have a fantasy impact. He's going to throw to Wes Welker a lot. And because he's injured, he's going to be going to the guy that's running the short routes, running the underneath routes. That's Wes Welker. I know there was a lot of, Demaryius Thomas last week and a little bit of a Decker. And against San Diego, Welker didn't get a lot of looks, but he's going to get a lot of looks, especially against a really, really hardcore, solid, tough Kansas City D.
Yeah, that defense is absolutely fierce, and that's why I brought up the Peyton Manning thing because it is a toss-up because if he gets hit a few times, he's not a mobile quarterback so he can't typically escape pressure. With him being gimpy, he can escape pressure even less. Right. And so to me, if they're hitting him 2 or 3 good times in the game, you are risking injuring him to the point that he might be out 2, 3, 4 weeks down the line. And do you want to do that? Or do you risk the loss because it doesn't really mean a lot to them, even though it's a division game. But they've been doing so well this season. But I don't know. It's just an interesting thing.
Good point. You don't want to end up with Aaron Rodgers disease.
Right.
Which is a whole deal in Green Bay that PROST, whoa.
I know they're not going to sit him, but I just had to bring it up as a scenario type of thing.
Oh, no.
So the person I took from this game is Jamal Charles of Kansas City, and he's just been a beast all year. I have him on one of my leagues, and they do everything with him. I mean, they run him, they throw him the ball because Alex Smith does not get it down the field very often, and he is just on the field the entire game. They're coming off of a bye, so he should be well rested and ready. And Denver's defense hasn't been as good as they were last year either.
Definitely.
So I think the guy that you absolutely, I don't know why you'd sit him anyways, but Jamal is going to have another solid game.
Oh, yeah, especially against, we've seen how vulnerable the Denver defense can be against the run in many, many games. So that's going to be the late game on Sunday. One of the afternoon games is the Niners and Saints. And you have Drew Brees versus Kaepernick. Kaepernick was in a really low-scoring game last week, and it was a lot of fisticuffs last week. So, but I'm saying in that game you go with Frank Gore because even though it was against a hardcore defense like the Saints, he still put up 82 yards, which is pretty damn good against a hard defense. He's gotten good points against other good defenses, just like he's going to be playing against this week. 101 yards against Arizona in Week 6, 153 yards and a touchdown against the Rams, who are no slouches either in Week 4. So when they're not using Kaepernick, as they, of course, haven't been except for 1 or 2 games with the read option, they're going to Gore, and you're going to get some points in this game.
Yeah, and I like that pick. I have him. He's in one of my leagues, and I always have him in as my flex. I mean, he's always solid, it seems like, for at least 10 points, usually more. Usually you can get a good 10 to 15 points from him. So I think that he's going to have a good game. My pick for that game is Darren Sproles. And, the Saints play completely differently at home than they do away. So this is a home game for them. That's typically when they put up more points, they have more difficulty playing away. And Sproles got 2 touchdowns last week. He got a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown So I just think that he's the guy that if Breeze does feel some pressure and gets in trouble from that San Francisco defense, or if they're covering the receivers down the field, he's just going to dump it off to Sproles and really lean on him. Another good thing is Sproles got rest at the end of the last game because it was such a blowout. They blew the Cowboys out of the dome.
Yeah.
So, it's another thing is he got a little extra rest. He didn't have to play that whole game, but he is just Breeze's security blanket, and he does everything as well. So
love that pick, Jenilee, because Sproles happens to be my flex on two teams. Great minds think alike in the flex position, and he wasn't even supposed to possibly play last week. I mean, he's been injured. He comes in, just balls out. So
I needed him too, so I was happy.
Same here. I was like, oh God, I gotta go find Mike Tolbert off the waiver wire or something. Nope, we got to use him. So game number 3 is the one on Monday night, the Patriots versus the Cardinals. Tom Brady up against Cam Newton in a really, really solid, hardcore Carolina D. And tell us who you went with.
I am excited for this game. I am picking basically anyone that's running the ball for Carolina, whether that's Cam, whether that is D'Angelo Williams, Jonathan Stewart, Mike Tolbert gets some touches. I know it's annoying fantasy-wise because it's 3 guys and they're really trading them off and you never know who's going to get the points. But I just think that Carolina's running game is going to be very solid. New England is 30th versus the run. So they are not doing very good versus the run. And I think that because Carolina's defense is so good, when their offense is on the field, they're going to want to chew that clock a little bit.
Definitely.
You want to keep Tom Brady off the field. So I just think that, anyone running the ball is going to get some yards, some points. We just maybe don't know who it'll be.
Yeah, I mean, the Carolina passing game has not been stellar, and that's how they've been making their points, has been pounding and pounding the ball. And yes, it's the dirtiest word in fantasy football, running back by committee. Yeah. But you got to gamble. And you got to, if you have one of the 3, I mean, Stewart is, as we know, the weakest link of that group.
Yeah.
But
and he just came back.
Right. Tolbert is your, handcuff on the goal line, and D'Angelo's running up and down the field.
Yeah, he's been decent, and Cam might even run one in.
Yeah, Cam is running multiple ones in a few games. Yeah. So mine is Danny Amendola if he stays healthy the entire game.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, he's been healthy for 2 games. Last week he 4 receptions for 122 yards, a 30-yard average. Huge. And that was against, it was against Pittsburgh. And, I mean, just like Welker, this guy loves running routes underneath. He likes running unorthodox routes. That's why they tried to bring him in the Welker spot. And we all know how the Darth Vader, Belichick, as I, like to call him.
With the hoodie.
Yes, with the hoodie. I am going to put you in a place on my team, and you're going to do the same thing every week as I tell you. That's how he runs it.
And it works.
It works. I mean, AJ can attest to it. That's why she loves the team, It's cogs in a machine, and he has the same machine every week. And as long as you're one of the cogs and you work, I like Amendola as the cog this week. I think, as we know, Gronk does well also, but I just think Amendola is going to, I predict is going to do well this week.
Yeah, I'm excited for that matchup. Carolina's defense has been playing amazing. So, you're getting the Tom Brady offense against a great defense. Should be a good matchup.
3 wild games to end the week, and we have to watch the Bears at the beginning of it against the Ravens. We're going to be pooped by next week.
I know. Hopefully we can pull out a win.
Yes.
We need it.
Yes, so we're in week 11, and we're going to go into our beasts, into our real men. This week, just a little bit of a preview, we are going to be giving you a lot of backups because that's what's playing right now, unfortunately, all around the league. Green Bay and Chicago, and the list goes on and on and on. Tampa Bay, the list goes on and on and on.
And you know, the obvious players you're always going to start.
Right.
So it's like, you know, why are we going to sit here and just talk about, you know, the Tom Brady's and the Megatrons and the, you know, we talk about them some, but
We do.
you know, we want to get some secret players.
This is
out
big
there.
balls. You gotta have balls to make these picks. So, Jenilee, you ready?
Let's get into it.
Let's do it.